Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Wilkie and I'm here with another Lost Ark guide. Today's topic is going to be about my Devil Hunter slash Deadeye, more specifically about my PvP build that I am using on the Russian server. With that being said, there are three keynotes that I want to give you guys before we actually start. First of all, I'm not going to put a Lost Ark tree.ru link in the description because we're still using the old tripod, so this is kind of a little bit wonky. Second of all, if you don't want to watch the whole video, this is specifically just about skills and why I use them. So I'll probably make a separate video talking about engages, combos, and more stuff like this. So if you're interested in actually learning more about Devil Hunter and not just the skill build, then this is probably not for you. Also, I'm going to be quickly skimming over my skills at the end of the video again, so in case you're just interested in exactly the skills, just use one of the timestamps in the description below. Last but not least, I also called this one Deadeye. If you're playing or if you have played on the NA and EU server, there's one thing that I like to remember is that we don't really know what kind of balance patch we're gonna be on in NA and Europe. So it may very well be that we will have a different balance patch, but for the most part, the build that I'm gonna be using should be applicable to your gameplay as well. With that out of the way, let's get started. So first of all, obviously the most important part is what stats am I using? I run the classic 933 agility, 316 subdue, and that 1 gamble crit chance here. Obviously you can go routes like that, but I prefer to go with the different route. So for me, this is the build I'm going to be using. Also, I'm currently playing around with the ultimate, but I'll talk about these later. So I replicated my build in Tricion as well, so we can test it out a little bit better. So let's directly dive right into that. So the first thing we're going to start with pistol skills is Spiral Chaser. Expose Vital, I don't really think I have to talk much about this. Good combo extender, good for the added crit chance, usually is dropped below enemies or sometimes can be used defensively. AT Grenade, very good skill. You want the throw range, and the Freeze Grenade is probably your best status CC that you have as a Devil Hunter. Post buff, they changed the hitbox of it. So now the classic kick into freeze grenade combo on Devil Hunter is much easier to use. This is so much more reliable now. This is a godsend buff that we received. But yeah, classic throw range, so you can actually lob this thing quite far, which can be good to interrupt people from afar. And then, like I said, freeze for that. Execution, you want that extra mobility, and you want the tenacity on it. Execution has two things going for it. If you just tap it once, you're going to do the kick. If you tap and hold, you're going to do the shooting volley. Shooting actually ruins or basically ends your combo at that point. Other than that, you can actually combo off the kick with freeze grenade or other things. Sometimes it can be good to just use a kick. Typically, most of the time, you just want to use the kick. Sometimes it can be good to just shoot if you have no other cooldowns ready, because why not? Also, one thing is you can actually delay the shooting a little bit. So if you tap and hold, right, it's basically going to go instant into that. But you can also wait a couple seconds. I don't really know if there's any application for that, but maybe if you want to prolong the CC, it technically is an option. Summer Solid Shot, quick hands for attack speed, either Evasion Master or Crazy Fire. This is the more offensive route for some extra added damage. This is the evasion route, which may or may not save your ass every now and then. Super Armor, self-explanatory, you want to get the tenacity frame on that and also that juicy 3-second cooldown reduction. Equilibrium, nothing there. Can be swapped out for Meteor Stream alternatively. I typically prefer Equilibrium though. Sometimes I do swap it out for Meteor Stream, so this is a personal thing. Deathfire, you obviously want the tenacity. I typically prefer Continuous Throw over Cold Bomb. The reason I don't like Cold Bomb is first of all, it doesn't really combo as well as, let's say, Frost Grenade or anything else. Second of all, if you actually freeze someone with it and you don't really get to combo of it, you essentially wasted the status immunity on them, because now they will not be able to be frozen, stunned, feared, or any hard status to see like that for another 7 seconds. So I think this one is actually not the better option is Continuous Throw. And Invade and Conquer is what makes you get this dash, because without this skill just basically jumps on the position here. So yeah. Multiple uses of this. This can be used to either move in or out. This can also be used to extend CC. Like if you fully want to stagger people, you can just hold it until the very end and you're going to skip the grenade throw. Sometimes you're just going to do that into another stagger chain, or sometimes you actually want to throw the grenades, then just release inside of that. I'm gonna add a small clip here, apologize for the quality. Is there something going for it? Wow, that's so master damage. My god. Oh, I have all of them in a stagger. Ooh, wow. Have you seen that setup for... this is an example for where I choose to do the full stagger route because I've seen my... As you can see here, my summoner is all around and he actually has seen that opportunity and launched his ulti to whack 3 people with it. That was an insanely glorious combo. So this is, for example, an option on how to use staggers effectively and not typically use the grenades on Deathfire. Bullet dance, self-explanatory, literally a skill to dance people with. Can be used offensively, can be used defensively. You can also use only one rotation if you need to. Be free to use as you like. And quick shot, you want to use the shove tripod in order to allow you to actually do wild combos like this or combos like this. This is the classic route that you're gonna go with shove. So days into Last Supper. Alternatively, this one's a little bit more finicky. Days, that was actually bad. Days into Last Supper. A great disaster. So that's pretty much all for pistol skills. Shotgun skills, I typically like Omen of the Apocalypse better. A lot of people will probably use Shotgun Barrage, but I highly recommend only using Shotgun Barrage if you actually have the skill points for auto-fire combo. If you don't have auto-fire combo in, the problem with this skill is that it locks you into that animation incredibly long. Like, you can't really do anything here. So the only way to cancel out of this skill is your spacebar, which I think is really, really suboptimal. Whereas Omen of the Apocalypse, you can just do one blow, or if you have the time, you can use both shots, which makes it much, much safer and much easier to cancel. Shotgun Ruler, it's just there because sometimes it's good. It can be used as a combo extender. So at times, that was kind of wonky. At times you can pop like that and you just tap it and it's going to extend your combo. Judgment Time, I actually like the skill a lot, even without skill points. If you use it, for example, like this, point blank after Last Supper, it deals a pretty good amount of damage and there's nothing the enemy can do against that. If you don't have any other better follow-up options, I highly recommend trying to put your Judgment Time after Last Supper in. And finally, Last Supper, you always want to get the cooldown reduction to have it available more often. Execution is what makes the skill get this dash here, which is incredibly good and useful. Auto-fire or double shot, typically a lot of people will use auto-fire. You can also use this one. I think this actually makes the skill fire a little bit faster. It's a bit more finicky to use, to be honest, but I think hitting this is probably just as easy as hitting this. The only other benefit I see is that this is a slightly longer combo extender. Also, don't actually neglect the fact that you have an explosion radius, so you can use this up in the enemy's face. Or you can actually make use of the explosion radius if you position yourself like that, and actually still hit them. I didn't even touch them with the shotgun, but the explosion was big enough to still whack them. So don't forget this when you're using that skill, that you can actually space people with it, or sometimes people are unaware of the fact that you would be able to hit them. Spiral Flame, you definitely want quick aim. Without this tripod, this skill is super, super, super slow. Great Disaster. Now, first of all, I typically would use Tenacity. I don't know why I have quick aim here. Tenacity, I'll show you why quick aim is kind of pointless because of a trick that I learned, and I like to shout out to RayTR from the Global Lost Ark Discord because he shared that trick with us. I think this is incredibly useful, but I'll show you in just a second. Tenacity, self-explanatory, sometimes protection can be good, especially since you can hold this skill for quite a while, and during all that time you're gonna have your Tenacity frames on, so this is definitely good to know. Helpless Target increases the damage, and Carpet Bombing makes you use 2 grenades, which basically means double the damage. Now there is 2 things that I want to show you. First of all, landing both grenades requires a little bit of spacing, so if I hit them at the very start or at the very end, as you can see, there's only 1 damage number popping up. If you center that little space indicator so that he's actually in the center, hitting both grenades isn't typically too hard. Just make sure that you actually hit both of them, because otherwise you're only going to deal 50% damage, and this is probably your hardest hitting ability. So definitely make sure to use this accordingly, especially since it has a much shorter cooldown than Last Supper. Also, the trick that RayTR showed with us is why I think the speed is useless. This is the fastest way you can do it if you just tap it once, right? Basically, it shows the indicator for like half a second, and then you're good. But I'll let you see something or try to spot the difference here. I'm not fully proficient in that yet. I'm still learning how to do this properly. But as you can see here, the indicator barely shows up now. And the only thing I'm doing different here is I'm inputting another button mash, or a button click rather. I'm not mashing. Pretty much as soon as a flip is done. So as soon as a flip is done, just input the same skill hotkey again. So for me, that is the S key. You can probably see that it highlights a little bit. And this makes you basically pop the grenades even faster. Not only is this better because you're getting to use this at a shorter range, but this allows you to connect to combos much more safer and much more easily. So definitely make sure to try and use this. I started using this in PvE as well that way, just in order to get the muscle memory in, so you don't actually have to think about this. Aim and shoot. Personally, some people like to use quick aim. I think rapid bullet is better in that scenario, but this is a personal choice. A quick aim just makes this go off faster, but I think the skill goes off pretty fast, and rapid bullet makes those projectiles fly faster, which means even if the people see that red line, it's gonna be harder for them to dodge. This is more of a personal preference. Stun effect, pretty self-explanatory. You want that skill to be stun, to have a stun on the very last hit, so the first 3 hits are actually stagger, and the last hit actually stuns the enemy. Incredibly good. Probably the most fearsome thing the Devil Hunters can do, because that skill allows you to follow up with virtually any hard-hitting ability that you want. You can transfer this into a combo, or you can even pop your ultimate after this, and there's nothing the enemy can do against this, so this is incredibly vital. Last thing here is perfect shot. Now this is where a lot of people will actually have a different build. So the build I'm actually using, I don't know why these tripods are all over the place. Steady posture. This is pretty self-explanatory. That stagger immunity can be pretty vital, especially against classes like other Devil Hunters or Arcanas. This thing is pretty golden, and the other tripods are just not really worth it. So the difference, or the question is now between perfect preparation and finishing shot. Perfect preparation makes the skill cancelable. However, you're going to reduce your damage, and you can only release this once it's fully charged. It basically auto-fires. The good thing is, let me remove that cooldown. So as long as I don't use that skill or like fire it away, I get to re-aim as many times as I want. Only until I actually release it. As you can see, we have a cooldown here. The difference is if you don't use that tripod, every time you click the skill, you have the cooldown. So this is obviously a much more usable and much more feasible thing. However, this skill does insane damage when you use it with a finishing shot. Given that it only works 50% of the time, because once your enemy is below 50% health, you deal 60% more damage. But boy, this thing late game deals an easy 40 to 50k non-crit to enemies below 50% HP. If you're in the lucky event that you actually score a critical hit with this, you can easily pop off 70, 80 crits, 80k crits with a skill, which is enormous, which basically deletes enemies if they are below 50% HP. Incredibly powerful. I have used, this is post-nerf, pre-nerf, or pre-buff actually. There was a change to some tripods on Devil Hunter. Before the change, we had a guaranteed crit tripod, which is what I used to give you basically a super hard horse kick from range. But I actually, very recently, and thank you Archangel, that is probably the highest ranking Devil Hunter on the Russian server. He actually told me that he's also using this, so I went back with a full damage route. And ever since, I think I will keep using this. However, if you decide that you want to get a more, I guess, reliable or controllable option, this is also for you. But yeah, this is basically the skills that I'm using. So to quickly skim over this, Spiral Chaser with Exposed Vital, AT Grenade with 1 and 3, Execution with 1 and 2, Summer Stone Shot with 2, 3, 2, Equilibrium nothing, Deathfire 2, 3, 1, Quick Shot with just 1, Shotgun Roller, no, Last Supper with 1, 3, 2, Spiral Frame with 3, Great Disaster 1, 2, 1, Aim and Shoot 1, 3, 1, and Perfect Shot 1, 3, 2. So these are the tripods that I'm going to be using, or that I'm using in PvP. Last but not least, both ultimates or both awakenings for Devil Hunter are actually worth it. So there is no right or wrong. I'm going to give you the perks or the benefits, the pros and cons of each of them. So Clay Bombing has the added benefit, this one actually deals more damage. So if you're just taking raw damage into account, this thing is actually better than Bursting Flare. The other benefit from this skill is that it also can be used very defensively, and it has a much greater AoE and radius to it. So just by nature how different the skills are, this one's much easier to actually land on multiple enemies. If you just know that 1 or 2 enemies are stunned in your team, or from the enemy team, pardon me, or they can't move out because they have their escapes already wasted, using this skill is obviously a good thing. However, there comes a drawback, or 2 drawbacks, and that is something that I want to show you here. First of all, this skill has a very, I guess, strange hitbox. So the explosion is actually what deals the high damage. I'm just going to show you here that I'm going to deal some minor hits, and the actual explosion is not going to hit the dummy. This is very important to understand in PvP, that if you are point blank touching an enemy, you actually have to create some distance for your ultimate to hit. This is incredibly important because you may completely waste your ultimate sitting on top of an enemy and popping it. The other thing is, the ultimate takes quite a while. As you can see here, it starts at all the way until the last explosion actually pops in. It's quite a while. So typically what you want to try and do is position yourself in such a way that your enemy is roundabout to your right back leg, right? So if I pop this now, you can see that the explosion here connected rather quickly. So for a combo, it would be like something like this, boom. Also, another thing to note is that it doesn't actually matter what direction my character is facing. So if I have my mouse cursor here and I press the ultimate, he'll actually turn in that direction and throw it. So you don't actually have to move into that direction, you just have to basically fight, move your cursor up, start the ultimate that way, and you have a guaranteed hit. This takes a little bit of time to get used to, but definitely is a viable choice. I'm still in the process of trying to learn how to use this skill effectively, truthfully. The other thing, Bursting Flare, is pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, doesn't deal as much damage, but has the added benefit of being very, very good in terms of range, so you can use this also to help your teammates. If you're seeing that a teammate is landing SAC on an enemy target, just shoot this across the arena and you're still going to deal damage. The other thing that I mentioned earlier with aim and shoot is, let's summon our normal one. This is a guaranteed setup. So at the start of the game, you can actually start to immediately pressure the enemy by doing that, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing they can do. I'm going to show you guys a clip here where I actually managed to whack multiple people at the start of the game. This is really interesting and incredibly powerful to use it that way. Obviously, you're going to miss the chance to use your ultimate during the last 60 seconds, but this is going to deal tremendous psychological damage to your teammate, to your enemy team. So much so that I actually had people that went AFK directly after I opened the fight like this. So, be it as may be, both of these options are viable. So, that is all. Sorry for dragging this out as long. Like I said, this is my skill build only and a bit of explanation on why I use certain skills. As usual, like I said, links to my social medias are going to be in the description below. Also, the timestamps as usual. I also stream this game and other games on Monday, 1700 CST. And sometimes I occasionally stream outside of those times. So feel free to check me out on Twitch as well if that is more to your liking. Last but not least, I do hope this was helpful. Do stay safe. And I'll see you guys next time.